Hi, my name is Christy Pinuel. I am going to speak with you about fetal alcohol syndrome concerning an 8-year-old girl that is in the first grade. JCanna is an 8-year-old first grade student attending Tifteria Elementary School. Very little information is known about her biological mother. It is reported that her mother had a history of substance abuse and JCanna was possibly exposed to alcohol in utero. JCanna was placed with a foster to adopt family. She was adopted by the Wilsons when she was 2 years old. JCanna was the Wilsons' first child and they were not certain when developmental milestones should be achieved. The Wilsons used a pediatrician that gave JCanna a thorough checkup and stated nothing was wrong. The Wilsons understood that something was not quite right with JCanna and were still concerned that she had special needs. They took JCanna to a different pediatrician at the age of 5 and the pediatrician diagnosed her with fetal alcohol syndrome disorder. JCanna showed behavioral and sensory problems equivalent with prenatal alcohol exposure. JCanna had to repeat kindergarten. JCanna is in the first grade now and the teacher reports that she has poor focus and attention, which becomes a hindrance while learning an activity. JCanna loses her focus quickly. If JCanna wants to participate in the activity, then she will give it all her attention. If not, she moves from activity to activity. She likes to visit with other students in the room and loves to hug all of them. JCanna does not understand where her boundaries are and likes to get in the space of others. JCanna loves pets and likes to tell everyone about her cats and dogs. JCanna enters her classroom daily and acts as if she is coming to a new room. She must be reminded where items go and where her desk is located. JCanna starts wandering around the classroom after she places her items in the correct cubicle. JCanna will only sit for a short period of time during group. She can follow one-step commands or one-step directions. Giving JCanna several steps at one time are difficult for her to remember the beginning of the assignment. JCanna does not like to ask for help and does not finish assignments when given during class. Gross motor is a strength for JCanna and she loves to swim. She has a hard time with fine motor and is uncoordinated when doing a task. She tries to grip a pencil, but it is not an appropriate grip and she tires out easily when writing. The frames of reference that go along with this case are sensory integration and behavioral modification. The sensory integration frame of reference is from the work of Aries. The sensory integration frame of reference focuses on sensory systems, which are auditory, visual, gustatory, interoceptive, tactile, vestibular, and proprioceptive. Numerous studies have described different types of sensory integrative patterns based on behavioral observation and assessment. The 5 sensory patterns are sensory modulation problems, sensory seeking behavior, sensory discrimination and perception problems, vestibular bilateral functional problems, and praxis problems. JCanna presents with sensory problems such as grasping for writing and uses a lot of pressure when writing with pens or pencils. JCanna has defined muscle weakness in the upper extremities, which causes her to tire out quickly. JCanna needs to work on strengthening her fine motor skills and upper extremities. JCanna shows sensory seeking behaviors. She loves to ride her motorized scooter and jump on the trampoline. JCNA needs some sensory strategies to keep her on task. The behavioral modification frame of reference is from B.F. Skinner, which was his conditioning theory. Behavior modification attempts to modify or form behavior using a framework based on the interaction between stimuli and response. Operant conditioning takes its foundation on the proposition that the most effective way to learn about a person's behavior is to determine the motive behind the action and the consequences that follow it. Skinner maintained that three kinds of responses existed: neutral, punishing, and reinforcing. Neutral responses, as the name implies, were neither positive nor negative. Reinforcing responses were deemed positive, while punishing responses were negative. JCNA's attention varies depending on what is happening or who is around. JCNA likes to have eye contact with someone in charge. She responds well to positive feedback when performing a task. JCNA works well when the lesson is structured in small amounts and has small groups to work with. In a classroom where students are expected to sit quietly and listen to a lesson, JCNA is very distracted and speaks out in the class. JCNA will disturb others in the class, so the attention is on her, and she requires more attention than one person can give. The top-down and bottom-up approach. Clinical observations and sensory profile indicate that JCNA has sensory-seeking behaviors. JCNA enjoys swimming and socializing. JCNA needs some additional sensory strategies to keep her organized and on task. The top-down approach includes following more than one step instructions is basically confusing for JCNA. She usually can repeat back part of a direction, but it doesn't necessarily mean that she understands it. Testing indicates difficulty with auditory processing. Bottom-up approach includes JCNA's classroom attention varies depending on the subject or activity. When the class is expected to sit quietly and listen to a lesson, JCNA is often restless and distracted easily. She calls out in the class and gets out of her seat and disturbs other students. The occupation-based outcomes. Following directions. Following more than one step in a direction is confusing for JCNA. She usually can repeat back part of a direction, but it doesn't necessarily mean that she understands it. Testing indicates difficulty with auditory processing. JCNA also receives speech therapy and will work on following directions in her speech therapy program. JCNA's ability to follow direction has improved when visual cues are given. Repeating the behavior for JCNA helps. JCNA benefits from asking her other peers to help her with the directions to the task. Focus and attention. JCNA is focused on some activities. When a story is being read, when music is being played, and when she actively engages in the learning process through multisensory presentations. JCNA's attention is increased when the lesson is structured and academic tasks are broken into small segments. JCNA stays on task longer when she is seated in close proximity to her teacher. She also responds positively to eye contact with her teacher. The two COAST goals include: the problem statements are: JCNA will increase her focus and attention. Short-term goal: JCNA will stay on task for 10 minutes longer as noted by the teacher in group lesson within 2 weeks. Problem statement number 2. JCNA will improve her ability to follow 2-step directions. The short-term goal: JCNA will demonstrate the understanding of a two-step direction provided 50% of the time with the teacher's assistance in the group lesson within 2 weeks.